Alright, so over the past few weeks, I somehow picked up a full max rarity Satellarknight core. Shout out, so before I get started, a few different shout outs. One to my boy Ian for hooking me up with a Satellarknight core. And then a shout out to my boy Jordan, who gave me a access to the Pot of Extravagances for a weekend. I'll be doing some testing with that, and I will be posting the list fairly soon. Unlike Cosmo, most recently, I've actually been testing this. I've not tested Cosmo in a while, so I will be posting that list whenever it is done. In the meantime, I've been testing a weird Duelist Alliance deck I've not touched in ages, and gave it a different spin on how I used to play it, which was just Floodgates and Call the Haunted spam with Soul Charge, so now it's a little bit different. Without further ado, we'll just get into the profile. 3 copies of Deneb. This is like you need this, like that's your starter. 3 Altair, it's your Reborn. 3 Unicoli. This starts your combos if you don't have Deneb. So if you have like Call the Haunted or Reborn, this can basically just work as an Altair. It's pretty good. I might cut this down in the future just because I'm not completely sure how well I'm liking this one, but it's another level 4 body, so. 2 Vega, you don't need 3. Just the 2 is fine. Then 1 Alsham. I was shocked how much this actually came up in time. So I would go, Satellarknight Skybridge just turns into a free 1000 damage, and if you have Altair, it's the same thing, and basically any access to Deneb can usually get you to this, just because it's super, like, reliable. But it's an easy side out game 2, and then put it back in game 3, so, yeah. That's it for the Satellarknights. For hand traps, 3 Droll and 3 Ash. This is what I've been liking recently. So Spiral is the best deck right now, at least in my opinion. So Droll shuts down that entire strategy, and then the Ash is just good against basically everything else. Droll can easily become side outable depending on the matchup, but in the meantime, I'm enjoying it in the main. So that is it for the monsters. On the spells, 3 copies of Satellarknight Skybridge. Yeah, this basically works as an emergency teleport if you have anything on your field. This also allows you to dodge removal and imperm, so more likely you're gonna. This also acts as a call by the grave, because like if your opponent's gonna hit you with an Ash block or with a Veiler or an imperm or something, you just tag out and then summon another one, get another resource. So yeah, it's an extender, so which is also really nice. This deck is unfortunately not having many of those, so 1 copy of Genesis. This doesn't really come up all that much. Twin Twisters has often just become super, super reliable, because Trevor just returns everything in your hand anyway, so you just keep 1 random that you don't need, like an extra Call the Haunted, and then you just have access to it. So I might cut this in the future for Twin Twister, but right now this is working just fine. 3 copies of Extravagance, because this is literally the best pot of greed this deck can have access to. You run 3 of almost every important card in the extra deck, so you don't really need any, you don't really need to worry about it, and you don't have Super Poly, or I'm not playing Super Poly, so it just means more room for other random stuff. This is really, really good. Again, shout out to Jordan. Big thanks, fam. 1 Reborn, 1 Rhoda, and I'm also testing 1 Avarice. I found that this deck can really grind if it needs to, but once you run out of Trevors, it just gets really, really hard. And I don't want to have to use a Satellarknight to get back to the Trevor just so I can bounce it with another Trevor. So I decided to have 1 Saki version of this. I'm not super... it wouldn't surprise me if I ended up cutting this in the future, but I'm not running Emerald at the moment, so I'm just going to try this and see how it goes. That is it for the spells. For the traps, 3 copies of Alpha. Like, this card is super good. It gets you more draw power, it gets you a free negate, it gets you stuff off your board, and it triggers your Satellarknights, so it's pretty good. 3 Call the Haunted, because it's Soul Charge in this deck, and then 2 back to the front. I was running 3 in the past, because I was also running Trap Trick, but I found myself being limited by the Trap Trick in terms of deck building, because I couldn't get access to more spells. I would have to run a lot of different normal traps that were kind of low impact. So I decided just to cut down on the normal traps and play some more spells, more consistency stuff. 3 copies of Compulse. This is the best budget normal trap. I don't own impermanences anymore. I had to sell them a while back for some reasons I'm not going to get into, but these are really nice. I had Duelist League 1 just lying about, so. And then the one last card in the main deck, 1 copy Imperial Order. This is just really a Saki one of. You could honestly cut this for a different floodgate if you wanted to. Like, you could run another, I don't know, you could probably run another back to the front. You could run more extenders, maybe another Satellarknight or two. Who knows? But this is one I just really, really enjoyed. And it was just sacky all weekend, so. At least in testing it was. For the extra deck, 3 copies of Trevor. Like, this should be shocking nobody. This is, you're playing 3, you have to play 3 of this while you're playing Extravagance. You have to at least keep 2 of these in at all times. Or at least 1, so you have the access to the bounce. 3 copies of Deltaro, same reason. But this is a pop that's also a floater, which is really nice, so you can have access to this. I didn't know this, but this thing, unlike Trevor, doesn't need a material, so you could theoretically keep reviving this and just keep summoning more dudes. It's interesting, and I've not actually done that, but it's just there. It's cool. 2 copies of Diamond. This you use against, you run against Shaddolls because it turns off the Shaddol fusion. No, you run this against Orcus because it's just a blowout. If you go Batlamus into this thing, they literally can't deal with it. They have to go into like the scrap engine to deal with it, and that makes them go huge minus just to deal with a 27 beater. And even then, if your traps are good enough, you'll usually be able to deal with whatever they got. So yeah. 2 Batlamus. You don't need 3. You're not super worried about this getting hit just because, like, the only thing this really does is get you Trevor turn 1 or Diamond turn 1, depending on the matchup. And then this also gets you access to Trevor if you've bricked game 2 or turn 2 and 3. So it's not terrible. 1 Castel. I own this in ulti, so I'm going to be damned if I'm not going to play it. For the links, doesn't super matter, just because, like, these are just flex spots. You could run Super Polys if you wanted to, or Super Poly targets if you wanted to. You could run more Satellarknight cards. I'm running 1 Underclock. This is kind of okay, is okay just to get over big stuff while you have a Trevor. So if you go Trevor, bounce all your stuff, you can then make this, trigger the Trevor summoning more dudes, make a Batlamus. I use the effect before you go into Batlamus's effect. Reduce the number of something, and then just summon a Trevor, bounces back to your hand. And you can do the same thing with basically any Nightmare. With just Unicorn, not with the Phoenix or the Cerberus, unless you have prior setup. These are the other ones that are like, you don't really need them, because Trevor just basically deals with everything. But sometimes you can't get to Trevor, so you have to get access to these. So yeah, side deck is not really super important. I'm not running anything because I'm not playing this deck competitively, so yeah, that's all I got for you from the Satellarknight deck profile. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, or if you would like to talk theory in the comment section, please do. I love talking to you guys. I'll see you guys later. Peace.